Hi, good evening, everyone. Today, we are going to take some concepts from microeconomics that will be asked in GATE economics paper. ठीक है बेटा? तो आज का जो concept है that I'm going to discuss today is called substitute goods. So question is, what are substitute goods? Substitute goods are those goods which are used in place of each other. वो गुड्स जो एक दूसरे के अगेंस्ट यूज हो सकते हैं, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल टी एंड कॉफी, those goods beta are called substitute goods. So the goods which can be used in place of each other are called substitute goods. Such goods, ये जो substitute goods होते हैं, इन goods का जो utility function होता है, such goods have utility function U is equal to AX plus BY. They have linear utility function. ठीक है बेटा? For such goods, the MRS, it is given by कैसे होता है MRS? MUX by MUY. ठीक है? तो when we will differentiate this utility function with respect to X, when you will differentiate this utility function with respect to X, क्या मिलेगा? A. And when you will differentiate this utility function with respect to Y, क्या मिलेगा? B. So the property of substitute goods is that the MRS is a constant. It is constant. MRS is not a function of X and Y. MRS को कितना X consume कर रहे हो और कितना Y, उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. MRS is assumed to be constant. MRS is not affected by the amount of X and Y. So substitute goods are those goods which are used in place of each other. Substitute goods have this property that MRS is constant. Substitute goods are basically having MRS which is not a function of X and Y. ठीक है? But in such cases, what is your optima? So for optima, what you will do is you will compare MRS with price ratio. You will compare MRS with price ratio. So कैसे करोगे? If MRS is less than PX by PY, then you will consume only good Y. अभी मैं एक क्वेश्चन दिखाऊंगी, गेट इकोनॉमिक्स में आया था. So if MRS is less than PX by PY, you will consume only good Y. ठीक है जी? कैसे होता है ये? देखो बेटा, MRS basically it's the slope of indifference curve. ठीक है? PX by PY, this beta is the slope of budget line. So we are seeing that the slope of budget line is more than the slope of IC. जिसका भी slope ज्यादा होता है, whichever thing has a more slope, it is always steep. So budget line को मैं को steep line बनाना पड़ेगा. और जो मेरे ICs होंगे, that will be having a less slope, na? So they have to be flatter. So I will draw flat IC. So IC will be flatter and budget line will be steeper. So I've drawn a very steep budget line, but I've drawn a flat IC. Now the question is, what is the highest IC that you can reach given the budget line? So beta, if you see ये वाला जो IC है जो मैंने blue line से draw किया है, it cuts the budget line. So this point on the budget line is affordable on the IC. ये वो point है जो मुझे, suppose this IC gives you a utility of 10. तो 10 यूटिलिटी पाने के लिए एक ऐसा बंडल है जो बजट लाइन पे लाई कर रहा है, मींस इट इज अफोर्डेबल. नाउ बेटा वी नो हायर द आईसी मोर द यूटिलिटी, सो आई कैन गो ऑन अ हायर आईसी. सपोज दिस आईसी गिव्स यू यूटिलिटी ऑफ 11. दिस आल्सो टचेस द बजट लाइन, सो देयर इज अ पॉइंट व्हिच इज अफोर्डेबल. ठीक है, you can keep going on higher and higher and higher ICs. Note this point, beta. This is the point. This point is also affordable because it is on the budget line. But this is very, very, very away from the origin. So this IC is giving you the highest utility. So I will go with this indifference curve, which gives me the highest utility. And which point? This point. And which is this point? This point is the point where I consume only good Y. So beta, whenever MRS will be less than PX by PY, you will consume only good Y. Now, just the opposite is true here. If MRS is greater than PX by PY, you will consume only good X. एक बारी try कर लेते हैं. MRS is again beta the slope of IC. PX by PY is the slope of budget line. Slope of IC is more than the slope of budget line, but slope of IC more है, which means IC will be steep. Budget line will be flat. तो हम एक बहुत flat line draw करते हैं. This is a flat line and this is my budget line. Now I will draw a steep IC. But at this point of the IC is cutting the budget line, matlab this is affordable. It is consuming your entire income. Now I have to ask, what is the highest point that I can reach given this budget line? What's the highest IC I can reach? So beta, I will keep going on higher and higher ICs. Till I reach this point. This is the highest IC I've reached. So this is going ahead and this is consuming my entire income and I am consuming only good X. Okay. Third case beta. When MRS is equal to the price ratio. So when MRS and price ratio are equal, it means that budget line and IC have same slope. मतलब ICs will be parallel to the budget line. तो एक हम budget line draw कर लेते हैं. This is my budget line. Now I will start drawing ICs parallel to the budget line. So beta, first of all, I will draw this IC. This is parallel to the budget line. Please, I am drawing it without a scale. So just think that this is parallel. Then another budget IC parallel to budget line, another IC parallel to budget line, and finally an IC exactly on the budget line. So the highest IC, जो सबसे बड़ा, सबसे highest आप indifference curve attain कर सकते हो, that will go ahead and it will coincide with the budget line. It will coincide with the budget line. Is this clear? So these are the three cases that you have. Now, beta, I am going to take a question of GATE based on this concept. Question number 24. So GATE Economics. Question 24. This came in the year 2021. Question देख लेते हैं एक बारी जरा. So it says that, please एक बारी question paper से देख लेना. It says that there is a person called Trisha and her consumption preferences are given by UXY is equal to X plus 4Y. But it is given that X is basically biryani. And it is given that Y is pudding. Ye given hai, theek hai? Then it says that price of biryani is 2 and price of pudding is 3. theek hai? It says Trisha's total income is 120. However, she faces an extra constraint as she is not allowed to consume biryani more than 60 units. So constraint is given. Kya constraint given hai beta? That X cannot exceed 60 and pudding cannot exceed 30. These are the two extra constraints given to you. ठीक है बेटा? अच्छा. Now it says find X star. ये पूरा क्वेश्चन गिवन है आपको. Can you go ahead and can you see that beta, this is very, very similar to the concept I just taught you. This looks like substitute goods. ध्यान से देखो, what we have seen. We have seen that substitute goods are linear functions, ax plus by. And when I go back and I see this is exactly that. Ax plus by. So these, first of all, I have identified that this is a substitute good. If this is a substitute good, then what's the property we have? We will find MRS first. So MRS will be MUX by MUY. But a utility function given to you is X plus 4Y. So when you find MUX, it means you have to differentiate this with respect to X, you will get 1. When you find MUY, it means you have to differentiate with respect to Y, you will get 4. So beta, what will be MRS? MRS will be MUX by MUY. So 1 by 4, 0.25. ये हो गया MRS. बेटा PX by PY निकाल लो. PX by PY will be, so price of biryani is given as 2 and price of pudding is given as 3. So PX by PY will be 2 by 3, which will be 0.67. ठीक है? अच्छा बेटा, now we know that MRS जो है वो PX by PY से कम आ रहा है. So when a property देख लो, ये I have already taught you that when MRS is less than PX by PY, you consume only good Y. So in this case, you should consume only good Y. Only good Y. Clear हो गया? You should consume only good Y. तो बेटा अगर सिर्फ मैं good Y consume करती हूँ, I must spend my entire income on good Y. How much can I consume if I spend my entire income on good Y? Beta, just think about the budget line. Budget line is PX into X plus PY into Y is equal to M. When you spend all your money only on good Y, it means that you should keep X as 0. So you will get PY into Y as M because you have kept X as 0. Right? So your Y will come down as M by PY. Beta, income given to you is 120. Price of pudding is 3. So you should be consuming 40 units of good Y. You should be consuming 40 units of good Y. Listen to me very carefully, very, very carefully. If I draw the budget line, this is good X. This is good Y. Beta, the x-axis intercept, that is M by PX. Income is 120. Price of good X is 2. So the x-axis intercept is 60. The y-axis intercept is M by PY, which I found out as 40. So beta, my budget line is this. This is what your budget line should be. Ye budget line honi chahiye. The budget line should be here. It should be M by PY, and here it should be M by PX. This should be your budget line. Ye budget line honi chahiye. Okay. Now, they have given a constraint that you cannot exceed X at 60, more than 60 cannot be consumed, and Y at 30. So I have to consider these additional constraints that Y cannot exceed 30 and X cannot exceed 60. 60 is other, anyways, I can't consume. I don't have money for it. So, but Y cannot exceed 30. So my budget line now will be only this beta. This is my budget line. This is my budget line. Please understand. The equilibrium you have got. So we got equilibrium from this condition. And when we solved this condition, we got you should consume only good Y. And by consuming only good Y, it was giving that I should be consuming here. I should be consuming here. But this is not possible because at max I can consume 30 units of good Y. Are you getting it? 40 is not possible. At max I can consume 30 units of good Y. So beta, ideally, had I drawn my ICs, I would have got that my IC would have been here. The highest IC I would have reached would have been here, right? But this point is not affordable. So if this point, this highest point that I'm talking about, if this is not affordable, my ICs are much more flatter, huh? So my IC is like this. Yes, a flat IC is chal rahe honge. This is the highest IC I could have reached. But this IC is not affordable. I cannot, it's affordable, but because of the constraint, 40 units available hi nahi hai. 30 maximum available hai. So beta, my equilibrium diagrammatically will lie here. Please understand. Very, very important question. My equilibrium diagrammatically will be here. This will be my equilibrium. So I will consume 30 units of good Y, but my remaining income will be spent on good X because I still have money left. So what is my budget line beta? PX into X plus PY into Y. Pura analysis karna chahiye. Jaldi mein question nahi karna. Do not speed up. Do not think that I just have to quickly solve the question. No. Go through the entire process of solving the question. So income is 120. Price of good X is given to you as 2 and price of good Y as 3. I can consume maximum 30 units of good Y. So I will be doing this. So 2X plus 90 is 120. So 2X is 30. So X is 15. So the equilibrium that I reach, the final solution that I have is 15, 30. This is my final answer for this question. But only finding the answer is not enough. Doing the entire diagrammatic analysis is important. Trying to understand each and every step is important. So this is the question I wanted to take today based on substitute goods. Okay, beta. Thank you so much.